What up, lovely people? Welcome to episode 2.4. Last week, we went on a flashback journey of a segment I curated at the OMEC Summit last month. There were two other conversations I hosted that same weekend, one about the culture of film and television, and the other united two musical powerhouses from season one, where we discussed being blackety black in the music business and making your mark on foreign soil. Today, you'll get both in a nice fat ass episode. So without further ado, let's get it cracking, baby.
Chez is the only place to be. Chez through your speakers weekly. Chez get your liquor and unwind. Chez then you'll never be behind. Welcome to my place.
I want to introduce two women who are chipping away at the old Hollywood block from various angles. First, we have a native Houstonian who gave up her cushy corporate job to tour the world with her rhythmic kneecaps and jazz hands. The scriptwriter and also season one alumni, Shannan E. Johnson.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being had.
Next up, we have a sun-kissed girl from Zimbabwe with a twang from down under who started out as a child actor and went off to sell content to broadcast networks across the globe straight out of Hollywood, only to bust a U-turn 8 years later to pursue her love for acting and producing on native soil. Ladies and gentlemen, all the way from Sydney, Ratidzo Mambo. Good day, mate.
I really want to thank you for being here, both of you. It's afternoon for Shannan, and it's morning the next day for Ratidzo, because like I said, she's live from Sydney. But I made the mistake of calculating her 10 hours ahead when she was only 8. So happy sunrise to you.
She's a G.
She is a G, because Shannan told me she wouldn't do this if I fumbled with her.
No, ma'am, not at 2:45.
Let's get right into it. As I stated in the intro, both of you left the corporate side of Hollywood to scratch your creative itch, so to speak. Rati, because I could call you that because we're close.
Yes.
We just met, but we're close. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rati, what was the catalyst for you to leave LA, which is the mecca of film, to then return to Australia to pursue acting?
Oh God, I've done everything kind of backwards though. So it's actually, I was born in Zimbabwe, but then I did actually grow up in Australia as well. And for me, where it gets a little bit unique is because I only got into distribution because of lack of acting work, lack of opportunities, lack of work. Thought I'd create my own space and understand the industry better, become twice as smart as everyone else, and not wait for my agent or manager to call me. Jumped into understanding I didn't even know what distribution was, to be honest. I just wanted a job in TV. Then I did that because I wasn't getting auditions. I was getting maybe 3 auditions a year, where my colleagues, like all the big Australian actors, we've all kind of grown up together. It's a small industry. They were getting 10 auditions a week. So because of that disparity, I ended up getting into distribution and then went back to drama school. Because, to get my skills up, and then moved to LA after drama school because I could afford it. Did LA for a while, and then Australia. So I decided diversity was really cool. And that's why, pretty much, to be honest, that's why I came back. Because I'm like, wait, I am like pounding the pavements in LA with all these amazing actors. And right now there's work happening back home. I want a slice of something and to talk in my own accent.
Okay, we're going to get deeper into that later. Shannan, in your case, your journey was also a little ass backwards, zigzag and U-turn. Why don't you take us down that rabbit hole of, wow, what were you thinking?
Yeah, and even before that, I just want to point out that I'm going to have some very similar moments of, I did this because they wouldn't let me do that, right? Yeah. And then suddenly people got into it, right? It's weird how that's what the cycle is. But I always wanted to be a writer. I grew up wanting to be a writer. I just didn't know screenwriters existed because it just wasn't a part of my world. There's no internet. I was in Houston, Texas. There were no people for me to aspire to. So I wanted to be an author. And I figured somehow the books get made into movies. Magic. I didn't know what it was. So it wasn't until I was in my senior year in college that my mother sent me an article from Essence or Ebony magazine that said, hey, look at this Black TV writer. And I was like, oh, those kind of jobs exist. And that's when I decided I wanted to go into screenwriting. So I went to film school to get my MFA. And when I got out of film school, I became a junior development executive at the Sci-Fi Channel, where I learned how to take projects from pitch to production. And while I was doing that, I was in a place where I was ready to transition, maybe go to another studio or network. And one of my friends called me and said, hey, I saw this dance company. Why aren't you in it? And I was like, I'm adulting. I've got graduate school loans. I'm in my salary job. What do you mean? But at the same time, I was like, well, let me look into it. And I did. And I auditioned. And out of the 70, only 75 people auditioned, but they chose 3 people. And I was one of those people. So I left LA, quit my executive job, and everyone told me I was insane. They were like, do you know how coveted this job is? It's like that speech that they give in Devil Wears Prada. 1 million little girls, wanted this job, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, but I only live once. And I get to travel the world for free dancing. And I'm only going to stay this age for so long. So let me go ahead and get this dancing done. Because I was already old for a dancer at that time. So I didn't become a professional dancer until I was 28. So I did that for about 8 years in dance companies and doing Broadway national tours. And while I was doing that, people were still contacting me like, hey, I have a screenplay. Can you help me with it? Can you help me with it? So I started this side hustle, the Professional Pen, where I basically help people to develop their screenplays. Now, when I got done dancing, because my knees, my back, my neck was like, all right, girl, now you're 36. So I decided to come back to LA with every intention of being a creative executive again. I sent my resume out hundreds of times. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Nobody cared that I had more than a decade of experience. So I said, you know what? I'm going to turn my side hustle into my full-time job. So instead of being a creative executive who helps from pitch to production, I'm now a script consultant and I help from idea to pitch. So I figured there are all these resources that are out there, and I call Hollywood the largest gated community in the world, right? We're all on the outside, like, what's the code? Hey, what's the code, right? But nobody will give it to us. So I said, well, I have the game because I've been on the inside, on the other side of the table. And so that's what I'm doing now. And that's how I met Rudii.
Look at us, huh? Piggybacking off of what you said earlier, Shannan, either in your own life or witnessing the path of your peers, how beneficial or crucial do you think film school is to succeed in Hollywood?
It isn't at all. You don't have to go.
Oh,
it isn't at all. Well, yeah, because Hollywood in general doesn't give a crap about any degrees that you have. They care about your experience. So you can graduate from high school and start from the bottom until you're here in Hollywood. As a matter of fact, when you do your resumes, your education goes at the bottom, not at the top, like in every other industry, right? Like they literally do not care. So if you're trying to go for the clout, you could be wasting tens of thousands of dollars, not on the education part, but because you think the clout is going to mean something for you. As a generation, our generation went to school more, which means when you get out to Hollywood and you say, I graduated from NYU, there are 50 other people in the room who are like, yeah, me too. And, so it doesn't necessarily get you any further. The best part about it is if you like to learn in a classroom setting, which is why I went. I'm a nerd. I like to learn that way. But the other thing is the network. That alumni network is that's going to be the best for you. But you can also create your own network by getting out here and just grinding. Just depends on how you leverage any and all resources that you have.
And Rati, how has your experience in development and distribution helped you sell your projects? Like you recently sold one of your projects to a U.S. streaming giant, which shall remain nameless.
Yes.
However, please take us through the process.
It's so interesting. I'm listening to Shannan, like we should just work together. Because it's so interesting. Yes. Everything you're saying is so true. And that beginning
10%, but go on.
Because it's interesting me having to learn the back end of that. So once it's at the end of production, now you've done your show, your film, who's going to watch it? What platforms do they go on to? And it's interesting because I've seen the industry change so much. When I was like a junior executive as well, when we're selling content, I remember the days when set-top boxes, when they were trialing, which are like those little Roku boxes, which is now like an old-fashioned thing. But I remember when we were trying to sell content to these companies, were begging us for hours of programming to put onto these boxes to test. And I don't know if a lot of people know, but majority of the testing happened in Africa. So with my distribution background is I was the head of international sales for predominantly Africa, Middle East, Eastern Europe. And when I moved to LA, I was consulting. So I'm still consulting as well. So it was interesting seeing how Africa was used as a test case, because the majority of Africans, when I say Africans, I mean all continents, not just one country. But I know this audience knows.
Right. This one knows. Yeah.
That trauma, I have to always find myself explaining, like, so when I mean, I'm talking about all the countries, the continent, not just, there's so many different languages. So it's not a language, because most people are on their phone devices. So it made sense because there's more people with phone devices than they do actually have a TV screen. So they started selling content and trying to figure out how to monetize it, because monetizing things on a streamer was really hard for a long time, because content sellers and filmmakers and TV, anyone with their product, when you know, there's a romanticism when you create something where you want everyone to see it, but there's also that stress where you want money for what you've also created. So for a distributor to try and tell a producer that, hey, right now there's this thing called a box that they want to put your content on, more people can see it, but right now there's no money. It's called rev shares. You make it 1 cent, you make it $10,000. We don't know. So it took maybe a good decade. Not a decade, maybe about 5 or 6 years to kind of understand how to monetize that. So I kind of learned because a lot of the stuff where Shannan is so right, I was dealing with a lot of tech hedge funds, and a lot of people in this industry don't know what they're doing. And people are just like, you know, so it was literally realizing, wait, people, even that have gone to like MIT, that have gone to Harvard and Yale, they're the people I dealt with all the time who have money, like, oh, I want to be in entertainment. I've got the money. How do I get into it? I want to write something. I want to buy a platform. So I met a lot of the kids want to buy platforms. There's so many platforms that have come on in Africa. I have sold lots of content that's never been seen before. Good for our company. This presumed idea that all Black people watch the same content, that all Black people in Africa want to watch African American content. Like, oh, I've got all this Black content, I'm sure Africa would want to see this. That was never the case. Everyone might be woke in America and Australia and Europe, but Africa is still very conservative. And even though it's conservative, South Africa is different to Nigeria, to Cameroon, to Senegal. So it made me learn how to be specific. We can be here for hours. For me, it's a lot about cultural, because I've grown up in an African home, which is a certain cultural conservativeness and also way of dealing with people. Then I moved to Australia. So Zimbabwe is not very far from Australia in terms of because we're colonized beautifully. So we all speak the Queen's English, and we all have the same mannerisms and the way of thinking and the British politeness. So we have all of that unpacked. Then we have in LA, Americans talk and deal with things very differently. So I had to learn very quickly that my British politeness was getting me further and further apart. Like whether it was in the acting, whether it was in pitching, because you would see what the American hustle is the thing, and it's an awesome thing. I've had to learn how to find the balance. And the show is about two Black women, two Black Australian women. And by the way, this is the first. You know, and when I say Black, I mean non-Indigenous, because the land that I'm on, this is first and foremost the Indigenous Aboriginal land, and so I'm a guest on this land, and there's a massive community here. So it was interesting creating a show with the Australian audience not in mind, but it's about Australians, but with an international audience in mind. And when we pitched it to Australia, we got a warm. Pitched it internationally to all the big studios. We got, oh my God, this is amazing. Why is this only 10 minutes? We want a half hour. Let's buy it and make it into a half-hour series. So it's a long roundabout way of saying, with Korea, working in Africa and America, understanding platforms and audiences. Once you've gone through the process with Shannan, the other end of it, it's now, okay, who is this for? Do I write for my audience, or do I write for myself first?
So, well, just since you brought up your project, I just want to tell people, look out for 50 Shades of Black Girl, which is the project you just spoke
about. Working title for now.
Working title, but I just want y'all to know it does not involve latex and a whip. It's
or does it not?
Or does it? I mean,
I don't know.
asking for a friend. Okay. So while we're talking about like culture, I want to expand more on that, especially since, you know, this summit really does focus on the whole bicultural identity aspect of things. As Black people in Hollywood, as an exec, like when you were an exec, you were dealing with racial issues in more of a bubble type format, but you still had like the company name to potentially thrive behind. However, it's a different story when you're out here solo. So how are you guys navigating that landscape as a creative?
What I will say for me is, you know, I was an executive about a decade ago, if not more at this point, because I don't even know what day it is. So, you know, that was at the time where diversity was becoming a big deal, because we were starting to have diversity and inclusion departments, and people were starting to be hired as head of diversity. And we had a lot of programs out there that still go on now, where we had initiatives for writers, for directors, for actors, you know, and even executives, which is how I became an executive, by getting into one of these programs. So it was a conversation being had, but it was still, I don't know if taboo is the right word. Let me just say it how I want to say it.
Say it. Yeah, fuck that.
What I feel about Hollywood is, I don't think Hollywood is racist. I think America is racist. Therefore, Hollywood has that trickle down. I think Hollywood is based on nepotism. And because America is racist, then most people grow up in segregated places. Therefore, they're only hiring people they know. To me, while I was on the inside, there is no conversation of, we don't want the Blacks in here. They're just not thinking about you at all. You know what I'm saying? There's not an effort to keep you out as much as, you're not in my bubble. Then I'm not thinking about making content for you. I'm not thinking about how I should be giving you jobs. I'm not thinking about how you should be able to feed your family just like I feed my family. I'm not thinking about you at all. I'm running a business and I'm hiring my friends. And because I live in America, all my friends look like me. A lot of people disagree with me, but I think it's because they can't get the America out of it. I'm from Houston. I'm from the South of America. When I moved to Los Angeles, that is the most liberal place I've ever been. You know what I mean? So I'm in a room where it's free for all. If they're going to make a Black joke, and the next second they're making a Jewish joke, and the next second they're making a lesbian joke. That was the first time at work, there was a sign on the wall that said Dyke Den.
Oh.
And when I went in there, I wasn't allowed to sit on that couch because I wasn't a lesbian. But you know what I'm saying? So it's the kind of place where you can be whoever you are. Nobody's trying to stop you. It's all in your face. So with that being said, a lot of the racism is more systematic, as in there's nobody stopping people to say, hey, you're leaving out everybody else. So with that being said,
can I come back to what you were saying about film school? So the advantage is majority of people go to film school are majority white people. So they become out of it knowing each other intensely, and they come out of it all from Columbia or from NYU or from Yale. They all stick together, and then they grow up together making films, and they keep hiring, which is pretty much Hollywood. Yeah.
And even without film school, if I'm an 18-year-old Jewish boy, 9 times out of 10, somebody in here knows my parents, and that's how I got the job. And now we're at 18 years old, all white Jewish boys growing up in this industry together. And so now we know each other. Whereas in, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, Black people weren't even being hired like that so that they could have a base of people that they were growing up together with. So that's one of the problems when I came back. Is like, it's not that I don't know my stuff, but these people don't know me. And so since they don't know me, they're not taking a risk on me. They're not taking they're not taking the gamble on me. And so I actually have done better. Like, again, I came with the intention to work for someone else. I've done better working for myself. I've made more money working for myself than I was as an executive working for someone else. So at this point, people are trying to hire me and I'm like, nah.
I just want to follow up and say, like, for Rati, although Australia is known for exporting top acting talent, I don't know a Black Australian out there making noise. Like, are there some breaking barriers in Hollywood? And I just don't know they're Australian because they've, assimilated her.
In Hollywood, there's a lot of Australian Black and brown people doing well. Like one, for example, like a friend of mine from Zimbabwe as well, Shannan E, because she just booked another good wife.
A Good Fight.
Yeah. She's and that was Yeah, so she's a queen, a British actress. So Charmaine Bingo's Australian, just took over her role. Asian Bay on on Insecure, he's Australian. I didn't name him that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I for sure thought he was Filipino or something. Like he seems so LA to me.
But he is though. But born and bred here. So now American productions are coming here. The question now would be like, oh, are there any Black actors in Australia? And there's so many of us.
Yeah, I thought it was like a scarce thing. So I was like, I didn't understand like the reverse, like you going there. I was like, isn't she making it harder for herself? So Shannan.
Yeah.
You're known on social media for your quick wit and zero tolerance for people that don't read and follow instructions. Can you share with us the top 3 mistakes aspiring writers make as it relates to either script structure or pitching it? And then also please share the proper way to do those 3 things.
Let's see, man. I mean, let's just start with shooting your shot. It's like, first of all, be ready. Be ready, be ready, be ready. A lot of newbie writers still have that excitement in them that they haven't taught themselves yet. That Hollywood is a quick moving place. So if somebody actually does respond to your DM or your email or whatever it is that you sent, be ready. And so what I say by be ready is make sure that your screenplay is polished, is formatted correctly, is proofread, structurally sound. That is, I'm going to call it subjective because most new writers don't even know what structure is. So they don't know if it should be structurally sound in the first place. But so what I tell people is make sure that it's at least in a place that if somebody reads it, you're not going to be embarrassed. That said, even with the first shooting of your shot, be quick. Hi, my name is, you know me from where, you don't know me from where, or this is what I do. And then give your log line and then get out of the email. The other thing is don't jump in that thing and drop your phone number. I don't know why people do that to me, stranger. Do you think I'm about to call you? What is this? So people will send me an email or a DM and they're like, hey, I really need to talk to you about my script. Call me.
Oh.
You know, when you're new, you're showing your tail, right? You didn't click on my website. You don't know what it is that I do. You didn't see that there was a big button that said consultation. So if you wanted to talk to me, you could have clicked that button instead. Right, and pay me my coin.
That's what I'm saying. That's the key. It's not that. It's the fee. It's not
even the fee. It's the audacity that you think that I'm going to call you, stranger. Know what you're asking for from whom, right? So a lot of people get so excited. They go, oh, you're a producer. Hey, can you read my script? What kind of things do they produce? If they don't produce the kind of thing you're writing, it doesn't matter if they read it and love it. Maybe out of the kindness of their heart, they'll send it to somebody else. But now you've kind of wasted your time and theirs because you didn't do the research to make sure that they were the right people. So let me see if I can make that 3 things. So that's A.
You're at 1.5 right now.
Really? No, that's research. That's don't drop your phone number in the DM.
No, but that goes under shoot your shot. Give me one that's technical from the writing side, like story structure. Give me a general one.
Read screenplays. Because formatting is the hardest thing to learn. So that's number 2. So if you say to me, interior inside the house, you're being redundant because interior means inside. That means I know that you haven't done your homework. And then a story thing that I'll give you is you only have an idea, not a story, unless you have a protagonist who's trying to accomplish something, but something's getting in their way. And if they don't accomplish it, they're going to lose something. That's a story. If right now you've got this great protagonist, but none of the rest, that's an idea. Right now, you've got this great set piece, but none of the rest, that's an idea. Right now, you've got this great, oh man, what would happen if somebody lost X? But that's not a story yet. You need all of those elements to make a story.
That's dope. Ratidzo, do you have something you want to add?
Oh my God, learning never stops. I'm still learning. I still do acting classes. I can have a job. I would never, and craft, what you used to say, Shannan, craft is such a thing. And that's the thing I feel that sometimes people try and cheapen on. And it sucks because, especially for us Black and brown people, we have to actually be better or get because we have this quote supposedly one shot. Right. So if you lose your one shot because you haven't done that, it really sucks where our other buddies who are non-Black and brown, they can
you know why?
And they keep moving forward.
One of the reasons yeah, exactly. Fail forward. One of the reasons they can do that is obviously the supremacy. But the other thing is the network. because the person who got them in is the person who's willing to give them a try because they know each other. Or yeah, exactly. Whereas I don't know,
they see themselves, they have more empathy because they're like, oh, I remember when it was like when I first started. Let me try and, or then with us, it's not. It's like you have to be that better. So I think that I love everything what Shannan was saying, but that thing on craft, I always kind of I was the other day listening to an entire podcast. I spent the whole day listening to story versus plot, like the whole day. Like I'm still, you know, and I've been working in this industry for a long time because sometimes you can have an incredible idea and then I'd be mulling, wait, is there actually is this a plot? But is there any conflict? But wait, hold on, what's conflict again? And it's that, you know, you constantly have to keep doing the work and learning. So it doesn't stop, even if you've been doing it for a while. One word I love is intention. But the question I have for Shannan was, do you feel any pressure to support Black and brown people? Or your fellow people into like, oh, but you know, but don't you want to help another Black person come up because there's not many of us?
Yeah, I think in general, this is a burden that Black and brown people have. We are community centered, regardless of all the things that go on in our communities against each other. We, even though we're not a monolith, we believe that I got to do whatever for the hood. I got to get there because then I can bring people behind me. We are our brothers and sisters keepers. That's just a burden that, you know, that we have. And so, yes, what I understood off the bat was I'm a Black woman. Majority of my clients are going to be women, Black women, women of color, people of color, and then everybody else, because everybody's looking for that safe space. I do often have people dropping just their phone numbers in there because they get it twisted and they think I'm their homegirl because I am a Black girl. Sometimes people do ask me questions that I know they wouldn't have asked someone else because you see me on Instagram, you see me on things like this. I do a lot of talking to people. I'm a lot of fun. And now all of a sudden you're not respecting that I'm a business.
And I will definitely co-sign that initial statement that you started with about how we as a Black people face that. It's almost kind of like integrated into daily life. Like when you're talking, I'm thinking like, oh, I never thought of a situation I was in where it didn't come up in some form that I felt either that they were hoping I would offer, or there's always that little dance you do. But I want to rewind real quick because, you know, I hope audience, y'all caught some of those gems these people were dropping. It just fell off the stage, just jewels everywhere. So I'm just going to do a recap because everything that Shannan and Ratidzo added to is something that transcends the film business to me. Research, working on your craft, learning structure, whether it be scripts or a business plan or just how things are set up in your industry, knowing who you're talking to, so therefore knowing how to approach them, when and the how, and not being entitled, but doing the work and being intentional. All those things to me is life.
You better remember those things.
Yes. So guys, I will charge for these notes. No, I'm just playing. Like, but for real though, like I think I just wanted to underscore it because I know they weren't deaf and they did hear you. But for me, I'm like, we're at a summit where we have all kinds of people, all walks of life, all corners of the earth. The theme of this summit is collaboration. It's like, yeah, you got to take all these little advice points and you can apply them with these executives from these brands and the artists and et cetera, et cetera.
So for everyone out there who's listening, the film industry is collaborative, period, with a T on it. You do not do this by yourself. You just don't.
You brought up the project. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
The way you promoted is what the fuck is truffle sauce?
Yes.
So what the fuck is truffle sauce?
But let me tell you why I did that. I'm about to give y'all some marketing game. Okay.
Yay.
The reason I did that is because Facebook hates me now. The algorithm hates me. So I need to put something so people can ask themselves a question, and I'm going to get on their nerves so much that they're going to come into my DM and ask me what I'm talking about. So on all of my posts now, I put what the F is truffle sauce.
But you do that actually when you were dropping your Instagram gems and you were like doing your workshops, they all had the WTF.
Yeah, because that's I'm sorry. So that's branded for my professional pen workshop series. I have a what the F workshop series. So all of my topics are what the F, where the F, how the F, who the F, because that's what we're always asking ourselves.
And
right?
by the way, guys, all that is available on IGTV and YouTube. So they're like, I mean, maybe she's monetizing now, but they were free. Like, these are like valuable lessons. She's entertaining also by accident too, because it's just the delivery kills me every time. But it was, I'm not a script writer, and for me, it was very enlightening. But please tell me more about truffle sauce.
I'm going to try to make it as short as possible because I'm long-winded. I was a sample lady at a grocery store, and I was trying to get people to taste truffle sauce. And I didn't even know what a truffle was. I had never heard of a truffle. It was a terrible experience because everybody kept coming up to me asking me about stuff in the store when there was clear signage. And I'm like, I don't work here. I'm just selling truffles. And so I was like, I'm never doing this again. But then I said, well, what if I had to? Like, what if I had no choice but to sell truffle sauce? What is that story? And so that's how I came up with Tweet, who is a tattoo artist, and she's a fuck up, y'all. She can't get nothing right, okay? But her grandparents have said to her, if you graduate from community college, we'll buy you a tattoo shop. Maybe that'll get you on the straight and narrow. So she's like, cool. She's got one last bill to pay for community college so she can graduate. And the only way she can do it is by selling truffle sauce. So while she's selling it, she's terrible at it. She's got no good customer service. She and the store clerk get into it, but she starts to get on her way. And as soon as she feels like she's in a good place, somebody walks in and puts her into a setback.
Again, I mean, not to keep translating stuff to real life, but that's a very relatable story. You know, even if you have something you're very passionate about as an entrepreneur, the fact of like, oh, should I just get a 9-to-5 job and have security, or should I just keep pursuing this passion and grinding it out? And nobody around you understands. They're like, why would you choose that path? Like that whole thing. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So let's ride the hell out this wave. Please check out trufflesaucefilm.com. Social media, both their names. I want to thank Shannan. I want to thank Ratidzo for tuning in from various corners to meet me in the middle, literally, time zone wise. Rati, we just met through a mutual friend, but you're the homie now. Shannan, you already know. You already know. And again, I will repeat, if nothing else, research, work on your craft, learn structure, know who you're talking to, don't be entitled, do the work, and be intentional. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys, for listening.
Yea, though I walk through the shadows of my mind, what will I find? Are you there? What if I didn't want to lift my hands or give my praise or shout glory? Are you there? What if you cut me off, turn me around? Will my feet still be on solid ground? Are you there? What matter of love is this that surpasses all our understanding, that keeps you loving while our lives go on expanding? The lover of my soul, the one who's always in control, allowing me to give in, to go for, go, and still believe. Woo! Yes, I know he will, 'cause he said he would, and I know he will. Yes, I know he will, 'cause he said he would, and I know he will. Yes, I know he will, 'cause he said he would, and I know he will. Yes, I know he will, 'cause he said he would, and I know he will.
Okay, now, the moment I definitely have been waiting for. I'd like to introduce you to two women who have disrupted the music business. One exploded to fame in the US, while the other waited to become a European household name after moving here. I'd like to start with the woman with a deep, seductive voice that reminds you of a purring cat dressed as a dominatrix, and the front woman of the legendary Black funk rock trio, The Family Stand. Give it up for Sandra St. Victor. What's up?
Everything.
Okay, welcome. Looking good.
Hey,
All right.
I'm good.
And then we got the gentle spirit with the avalanche stage presence that has been known to blow toupees off of Caucasian foreheads with ease. The front woman of the gospel sessions, which I like to call the white chocolates or whatever. Give it up for Michelle David, y'all. It's so funny because ain't nobody clapping. We don't know what's going on, but
I'm here.
You know, you try to come in with a straight face, but your intros, I mean, how can I come in with like, hello, how are you?
yeah. Did I miss something in the intro?
No, you were on point. But,
All right. Y'all look good.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I'm trying to keep up. Like I got, some powerhouses. It's an honor.
Listen, I
probably should have worn a hoodie.
No, I feel the same. I was like, you're gonna have to do something because Sandra's gonna come in the room with the, you gotta have it. You better go jewelry. And I was like, I gotta do something up in here.
You always fabulous. I be checking your swag. Real.
It's an honor. It's an honor. Thank you. Thank you for being here to tell stories about music and migration. But first, I'd like to make a toast. Sandra, I hope your wine is done breathing because at this rate, there won't be any oxygen left in the room.
Okay. I'm glad I opened it up a minute ago. We good.
So raise them up. Cheers to you and all the fabulous things you got going on down there too. Cheers.
You know what? I knew you black people weren't going to show up with wine. I started to pour me some Ciroc. I got some Ciroc. I should just go on and pour the Ciroc.
Listen, I'm going to get right back into it because we got a lot to cover. So I want to go back, like way back. I want to know what 10-year-old Sandra and Michelle were up to. Is 10-year-old too far to think? Do you remember 10?
Oh yeah.
Tell me about what made you tick? What was important to you then?
You gonna go, Michelle?
I don't know if I should. You go, Sandra.
Somebody gonna go.
Already music, so I knew from the age of 8 that I was a singer, and I remember dusting this old lamp in the corner of the living room, and at that moment I was singing, as I always did. I said to myself, not that I want to be a singer. I said, I am a singer. That's what I am. I am a singer. At 8, I know that's what I said. And from that moment on, it's never been a question. I was already in the music playing at 2 years old. So
we're going to definitely go into more depth on that. But I want to know, Michelle, what were you doing?
At 10, I had joined a gymnastics exhibition team. And so I was touring the country.
At 10?
At 10, we had the opportunity to perform for, at that time, Jimmy Carter, and I was invited to Nassau, and so I was touring.
Already doing tours and big things.
Yeah.
What song reminds you of growing up, like with your mom? And
for me, it was Isaac Hayes. By the time I get to Phoenix. I could always tell what mood my mom was in, if she was in love, if her heart was broken, by the music that she played. And at that particular time, which is really funny, she was in love with this guy who looked like Teddy Pendergrass. And he was gorgeous. And she had this life-size picture of him.
Oh my God.
And I remember her walking through the street, coming home with this picture. And my aunt was one of those people who sat in the window, and watched the neighborhood or whatever. And she was like, oh my Lord, look at this lady with this big picture. And it turned out to be my mom. And when she came home, obviously he broke her heart because she closed the door and she played this record for hours and hours. And I sat there with my ear to the door. I felt bad for her because I could hear her cry, but I was more drawn to his deliverance. Song. I was drawn to the fact that by the time he got to Phoenix, I know I was going to be in college. The song took so long.
18 minutes and 45 seconds.
Yes. It was like the anticipation of, okay, by the time he starts, but by the time he tells the story before he sings, I was really captivated. And so that stuck with me so much. That was my inspiration of how I perform.
That's so dope.
We're gonna elaborate more on how you perform later, trust. So Sandra, why did you hate the song Misty Blue so much?
Oh, actually, it's almost the same story. My mom played that song on repeat so much when I was, in barely in the double digits of age, because, you know, my mom was, you know, Papa was a Rolling Stone. You know, so he was doing his thing. So she would just play that record and then she'd put it back, play it, and put it back, play it. I'm like, oh my.
Well, so she just wore it out.
She wore that record out. Child. So I hated it, but I ended up loving the record later on, you know, as an adult, having my own feelings and experiences. And it was also, you mentioned Isaac Hayes. I think Isaac Hayes' favorite song. So Kiss FM in New York invited me to sing Misty Blue to Isaac Hayes for his birthday party.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, go ahead and drop that in there.
Okay. Touch the screen.
Full circle. Full circle.
Full circle moment. I knew I had y'all here together for a reason.
Wow.
Michelle, you grew up in church.
Yes.
But singing wasn't your first love. It was dancing, right?
Yeah, I didn't even think about being a singer.
What made you fall in love with dancing?
The only way I can express it is it was my extended voice. I, of course, went through the whole classical scene. You know, you have to take ballet as a way of formulating your structure, which thank God for that because I still use it today, you know. But I didn't like it because of the fact that it was so structured until I hit the modern dance class. And I was able to distort my body in ways that weren't normal. And for me, that was an expression of my voice. My dancing was able to express when I was happy, when I was sad, when I was depressed, you know, from A to Z. If I was angry, I didn't have to say a word. I could just run into a dance room and release it. And so for me, dance was everything.
Okay. And then, but Sandra, so you grew up in the South you grew up in Dallas, Texas, right?
Yeah.
So how strong of a presence did church have in your life back then? Well,
my dad was a deacon, front row deacon, so we did have to attend church often. But I always explain to people that I didn't go to one of them hooping and hollering churches. The church I went to was like, he touched me with that vibrato. You know, I had a classical so you know, I had to go to friends' churches
to get that Baptist thing.
You know, the choir thing, you know. So that piece was always fire. I never differentiated between the spiritual release I got singing gospel music and the spiritual release I got from singing All About Love by Earth, Wind and Fire. It was still a connection that made it, you know, that I knew was a part of me. You speak about your expression in dancing, you know, any emotion, you know what I mean? Your body, you know, your body just emotes naturally, especially when you're young and you're not inhibited and you're not thinking about, you know, future and all that kind of stuff. You just be. That's how we find ourselves, and we found ourselves in those art expressions.
So you went to performing arts high school.
Yes.
And then went on to become a nurse. I mean, not immediately.
Well,
let's skip it a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And Sandra, you went on to study opera. Well, to an outsider, both seem like far cries from where you ended up. But you obviously just demonstrated the type of church you went to. That's very operatic.
Seriously.
A little bit. I'd like both of you to tell me about the moment when you decided to pursue singing. What made you take that plunge into a career that most would consider a risky business?
I was doing it for fun, really, until someone at my church told a band leader at North Texas University that he knew somebody that could sing because he was looking for somebody to sing in his band. And I would have had to move from home and everything. And that's when I really started taking it seriously. You know, I auditioned, got the gig, and moved from home. It was, you know.
I mean, like after high school and stuff, I was like, okay, I had an injury. And, you know, they drill this thing into you that if you get past the age of 23 as a dancer, you're lucky, you know? And so I had an injury at the age of 17, 18. And I was like, oh my God, my life is over. You know, what else am I going to do? And I don't even know how I went into medicine because I was a person who was afraid of her own blood. it was where I met my husband. I guess that's the whole reason why I needed to go there. But while I was there, I still did side projects singing. And then an opportunity came that I had let go 7 years prior. And I decided to take a leave of absence from my job. And I went to Japan for 2 months. And then I went to Germany for a month. And when I returned, I went to the office on a Monday and I called in sick on Tuesday, and Wednesday I resigned. And I said then, okay, I am a singer and this is what I want to do, God, but I'm not a starving artist. So take care of me. And so that happened when I was 25, and the rest is,
Yeah.
Okay. So then how was the family stand born?
Peter and Jeffrey are producers. So they were needing people to do demos. And at that time, I'd been on the road with Shaka and
Shaka Khan. You got to do the whole thing. Yeah. What the hell? Yeah.
Khan. And I'd never say that. And so the person that was doing their demos was Lisa Fisher, and Lisa got too busy doing background with Luther. So we met
Andrew.
Lisa, I'm sorry. Luther Vandross. So Lisa was in Dallas at a Luther concert. I was in Dallas visiting my parents. Peter and Jeff were in Dallas producing this band called the Mac Band. Roses are red, violets are blue, right? And so she said, hey, everybody's here. So we all met at the Luther Vandross concert. That's how I met them. And we kind of clicked and started working together back in New York.
Okay. So, Michelle, you dabbled in musical theater in Europe and Japan, as you said. But what made you decide to also pursue solo singing as opposed to being a part of an ensemble cast?
Well, the funny thing is I always thought that I was going to be a solo artist. I went into it as a soloist, but my way through the industry would take me through musicals as being, either an understudy or in an ensemble piece or whatever. But in my mind, I was like, I want to be a soloist. But it never really panned out the way I wanted it to, until I actually hit Holland, I guess, the Netherlands. And then I saw a clear vision. But then even in that, I wouldn't allow myself for some reason to go solo.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's so weird how you set yourself up because you can do something, but then you find yourself being comfortable in another way, so much so that the thought of being a soloist was like, maybe I shouldn't.
So it's a bit of like an imposter syndrome you develop.
Absolutely. And I started to say to myself, well, I'm a group whore. Let me just put that out there. I'm a group whore. And I would say, well, if the project doesn't work, it's them. It's not me, it kept me kind of
responsibility.
Yeah, and then I got to the point where even through the groups, I saw something in myself, but then I became afraid of the success of it.
That's deep.
Yeah.
So the fact that I'm actually, can I even say it? I'm somewhat of a soloist.
I think you can say that. Yeah, because the band is called Michelle David.
Yeah, it's still like to me because I know all these other things that come along with it.
Even though you're a soloist now, you still found a way to find a collaborative situation. And your name of the band it incorporates band members. So in a way, you kind of profile yourself as a group, but the world knows that if you call in sick, it's a problem.
Right. But even in that, they found me in a way.
Your path has been your path, obviously, for a reason. Yeah. But, it's solid, man. It's solid, where you're at, and your footing is really there's just undeniable what you've built and how you built it. It's very impressive. Respect.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I agree with everything. And I want to also paint the picture because now we're talking about it because we know you and we've seen it, but I want to talk to the audience members who know who don't know. In my intro, I gave a bit of a glimpse of how you are on stage, right? So, but I want to delve a little deeper into that and tell folks about what I call the 3 stages of being in the audience at a Michelle David concert. That's a working title. It's a little long, but you know what I mean. First, it's the look of awe and admiration when you hit the stage of like, what's about to happen? It looks like something about to go down. So they're just like, you know. And then comes that, man, I saw a ghost. What the fuck? Stunned face. Because it's like they don't expect you to just pop off, you know?
Yeah.
And then the third is the realization that they are alive and can dance. Like, it's really a process. Like, they freeze for like a good like half of the song before they realize like, oh fuck, I like it.
I like it a lot.
So, this applies whether it's 500 people or 5,000 people, because I've seen that as well. Do you recognize what I'm saying a little bit, Michelle?
Well, you know,
it's a yes or no.
It really
no,
is.
it's not. Don't treat me like it's a yes or no.
it's a yes or no.
I guess. You know, I try not to really think about it too much.
No, I understand that. I understand that.
Because I think for me, in all honesty, if I listen to myself, I'm like, of course I can't hear what you hear, but to me, I don't sound all that great. I just love the feeling that it gives me, and I love to watch the feeling that you're experiencing.
Yes.
Both of you are songwriters in your own right. Sandra, what's a favorite song of yours that you wrote?
Of mine that I wrote, my favorite song is Don't Bring Me Down. I just like some of the lyrics, you know. I said, you know, if I like to cross the ocean wearing just desire and lotion, don't bring me down.
Oh. Why do all your songs sound like foreplay?
It does.
Like, no, for real. Like, I don't, is it on purpose? Because,
well, that album, it was 1996. So it was about Black women standing in their power, their femininity, in their strength, femininity, and sensuality unapologetically. By leaning into my sensuality does not make me a hoe. It makes me in charge of my body. I can say, I'll make you come over and over.
Oh,
if I don't,
that's what it means. Come over really meant come.
Yeah, when I sing that song live, I tell people it's about coming over to the house, just because.
That's what I thought.
There's any children in the audience? But
oh shit! This took a turn, didn't it?
I have a question.
Yeah, baby.
Sandra, your process of writing.
Yeah.
So, because it's phenomenal. I love it in the positive way. You know, it makes you really, really dig deep and not surface writing, which I really love. But what is your process? Do you receive the melody and then the words come, or you have the words and then the melodies follow?
Usually, honestly, it's usually melody first, but sometimes I'll have a title and I'll search until I find a melody or a vibe or a track that could complement that title. But usually, like I gravitate toward tracks that people send, and I listen to them, and something hits me or I don't. And if it hits me, then melodies come immediately, and then you start singing just sort of syllables, you know, just and then they turn into words. Then it's on.
I just want to say that the smoke we occasionally see in Sandra's screen is not a blunt. It's probably incense, right? Throw that out there. Okay. Because it's just randomly.
See it? Okay.
Oh, that's funny.
I want to switch gears a little bit. You married a Dutch man and are at the moment raising biracial kids, teenagers. And Michelle, you imported your husband from the Bronx and have African-American kids that are fluent in Dutch. Mm-hmm. What have been the biggest challenges in assimilating to the European way of life?
That's a loaded question.
Unload.
I will say this. When I came over in 94, I think one of the things that made me go, aha, was the fact that I didn't have to show up with anything other than my voice. When I decided to maybe do an audition, or I did an audition for Broadway or something that was Broadway-ish, it was always something attached to your physical form. You know, either you're not tall enough, you're not short enough, you're not light enough, you're not dark enough, you're too fat, you're not too fat enough. You know, it was all these different elements. And when I actually came over here, I had to audition again. It was the same show. And so they had a new director. And so I came in as an ensemble person. And I stood in front of her, and I don't remember what I sang, but I sang a couple of lines, and she said, her exact words, "Who the hell did this?"
Oh,
She said, "Who put her down?" They said, "All right, you're all right. You have a leading role. Go over there." That was one. But after that, I had like all but 2 seconds of a song. And the next day the papers were like, oh my God, who is she? Oh my God, we love her. And I was like, oh my God, you don't care that I'm only 5 feet. You don't care that I'm dark skinned. You don't care. You know what I mean? And so that was my introduction. And I can't say how anybody else's experience, because maybe it's different. But for me, as a Black woman coming over, I felt like, okay, you look beyond whatever and you saw me and the talent. Now, school-wise, for my children, that's a whole different subject. Because of the system here, I found myself fighting. Like, you're not going to tell me where my child can and cannot go based on whatever.
Yeah.
The school thing is like a really, it's like another, kids got to like know by 12 what they want to be,
Exactly.
The time that Michelle came to the Netherlands, it was a time where not that many people were doing this migration, right? And whereas when I came in like the early 2000s, the internet had blown up. And so the world literally became micro connected overnight, really. I may have missed what I call the Josephine Baker, Nina Simone, opportunity boat. They're like so happy to have American people here, they don't really, they think you're cute when you're traveling back and forth. But when you live here, it's like, oh, well, shit, it's not as special.
Right.
When you were just somebody.
Until the moment where you get a achieve success.
Right. Things you said, then all of a sudden, you know what I mean?
But that's also a philosophy. That's also how they operate with their own. Like when, for example, for Dutch people, when Surinamese or Antillians achieve something abroad, then they're Dutch. When they're not achieving, they're Surinamese.
Ah, really?
It's really woven into the fabric of just how they just identify people.
Right.
So, Michelle, your band is made up of Dutch men. How do you make sure your own culture and natural flavor doesn't get lost in the sauce when creating music together?
It's almost as if my guys were made up especially for me. I put it like this. They are such lovers of Black music, Black sound. So they have actually schooled me on a couple of things.
So before we get out of here, I just want to talk about what you guys are doing in the moment. So Sandra, do you have anything coming up that you want to tell us about?
Sure. The Family Stands new record is going to be released soon. It's called Evolve. I have a record with Mark Batson, who's an amazing producer. He's produced Beyonce, Eminem, Matthews Band, Dave Matthews Band. He's crazy. So he's produced a whole album on me. I've got also I have gotten 2 of my records back
from your masters.
So I will be personally releasing Oya's Daughter. As well as Gemini Both Sides, and I'm going to release them myself, and it'll all be coming to me. So I'm going to make a deal out of that because now it's directly to me as an artist. I can
masters.
All
y'all listening, keep your intellectual property in whatever industry you're in, guys.
Do that.
Michelle, well, you own all yours off the gate, right?
Yeah,
so that's
absolutely.
a blessing. But you can talk about something.
Yeah, I can. We do have a big announcement coming out.
Well, this is the announcement.
This is the announcement of the announcement.
You heard it here first, guys. Hey, music lover. Did you hear? Our favorite band is changing their name. I know. I too am afraid of change, but I am here to help us through it. Michelle David and the Gospel Sessions is no more. They will now be referred to as Michelle David and the True Tones. The True Tones. Yeah. Say it with me. Michelle David and the True Tones.
Keep practicing. Oh, while you're at it, it's Michelle, not Michelle. So this extra E need to come back and join the party. Join the rest. Michelle, David, and the True Tones.
So new music is coming. Also, with my podcast, I have some new stuff coming up for Inspirational Grooves 2020 podcast. Yeah. Shameless plug. There's some new stuff coming up, so check that out. This, as you see, will also change. But you know,
what are you doing to that? What are you talking about?
Well, you know, so I'm just like you. I'm just like you. I'm just like you. Every 2 weeks, you know, you come up with a whole different, you know, frame.
Oh, but not like we're not going under the knife or nothing.
You know, I actually thought about it.
No, don't you?
We'll talk about this shit offline.
Yeah, okay. I thought about that.
Stop talking. Before we get out of here, I have one more question for someone who's been very interactive with us in the chat. She says, love this discussion, mostly because you ladies are reminding me of my roots. I'm wondering, as the years go by, are you thinking about legacy? Where will you be remembered? Family, etc.
I think certainly when you get to my age, you sort of by default start thinking about what you're going to be leaving behind. I want to be sure that at least when I'm gone, I know that I've done at least some or most of the things. I'm leaving the most of the things that are important to me, which are that I was clear and concise and most of all honest about my art, and that I've left children, young women that know who they are, that are powerful and in their footing, and that will continue on building upon what I've taught them and what I've laid out for them. Legacy is very important, and for me, it doesn't mean sales. No. It means impact. How my music impacted people, and I want my flowers before I go. So absolutely. Tell me my impact now.
Absolutely,
you the shit. You the shit.
Absolutely.
Flower.
Absolutely. I think for myself, I hope that I'm leaving. No, I think I am leaving the legacy for my children to carry on. I was a woman who dared to be. And in two forms, I have this thing where I say to myself, how dare you? And the other part of me say, you watch me. And then one part says, I dare you. And I say, watch me. So it's like, that's the legacy, that it doesn't matter where you were born. It doesn't matter, because your destination can take you anywhere. As long as you take that ability to know that you are who you are, and who you are is good, that's it.
And we all know it's that touch of audacity that has gotten us all where we are.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Where, humility is definitely central, but there's also a don't you know who the fuck I am element to it.
You got to know. If you don't know, you can't convince anybody else.
They got to know. So the time has come for us to say goodbye. I really enjoyed talking and drinking with you both.
Yeah, I think I drank both of y'all up the table. I'm really disappointed.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I don't think so, Michelle. You're just showing off your glass more. That's,
show you.
Connect with them on social media. Official Michelle David, because she's the only Michelle David that matters, on Instagram. And then Sandra St. Victor on Instagram. Saint is just ST. So ladies, I would like to say goodbye to you. Or the way I'd like to say, talk to you later. But thank you. I'm very proud of you both. Not even because I see you as Black.
I'm proud of both of y'all.
You too.
Amen. That's good.
Chez through your speakers weekly. Chez, get your liquor and unwind. Chez, then you'll never be behind. I want to know you. Find me on Instagram and YouTube. Cheru, CHEZRU. Follow, subscribe, invite your mama and your tribe, baby.